Hello, hello. I thought I would do a story time about one of my experiences that I just had recently. So, on Thursday, or we'll start back. On Wednesday late night, I noticed that the lift station for the sewer at where I work was not working properly. So I kind of changed some of the settings around so that the one pump that was working was on, and the one pump that wasn't working was not going to run. I then let my boss know, hey, something is up, but I did it via email because it wasn't necessarily an emergency thing, because it was the backup pump was already working in place, and we just needed to swap out the other one. So I had planned on basically him giving me a call in the morning and me starting to head up so that I could help him. Now, fast forward through the night, and I wake up right about 7 or 7:30 in the morning. It's shortly after my daughter had gotten on the bus. My wife comes in, and she's climbing into bed, and I get up to go to the bathroom, and then I'm going to turn around and go back to bed. However, when I get up to go to the bathroom, I notice that my pillow and down the side of my bed is soaked in blood. And as I'm walking to the bathroom, blood is just kind of pouring out of my nose. I make it into the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I'm kind of leaning over the sink while going to the bathroom. We live in an RV, so it's very close quarters, so it's kind of easy to do that. Especially without making the missus, mad about where you point and aim. But anyway, so I'm kind of, bleeding my nose. It's not really, really bad, but it is kind of flowing. It's like I want to say it was like a drop, just faster than every second. And it wasn't like, little drops. It was, drop, 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 like that coming out my nose. Coming out just the left side of my nose. So I'm kind of, messing with things, kind of cleaning up things, trying to kind of get it to slow down. And as I'm doing that, lo and behold, that's of course when my boss calls up and says, hey, just noticed the email. Do you want to go ahead and stop by Cow Ranch, pick up some items for us that we don't have up on the mountain? And so I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. I'm not thinking much of it. It's a bloody nose. It should stop, relatively shortly. Anyway, so I kind of get it to slow down, and so I get some toilet paper, and I kind of slowly fold it and fold it and fold it till it can just barely, with a lot of effort, squeeze into my nostril, into my left one. And so I get it into there, and I'm looking in the mirror, and it's not turning too red. I mean, you can tell that it is kind of, and it's not coming out my right side. So I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of breathe through the right side of my nose, not really well. So I'm mostly just breathing out my mouth at this time. I drive the 20 minutes to Cow Ranch and pick up a chain, pick up a bucket for the chain, and I still happen to have that in the back, dang it. I keep on wanting to drop it off. But anyway, so I pick up a bucket to put the chain in, and I get to the counter, I pay for it, we come home, and as we have almost made it home, the napkin that's in my nose, or the tissue that's in my nose, basically kind of just explodes out. And it's a lot more now. And so I'm got my shirt, which I had worn, a red shirt, a red dirty, well, not dirty, but looked dirty, a red work shirt that I didn't care if got stained. And so I'm sitting there holding this red shirt kind of up against my nose and heading off into the bathroom. And so as I'm in the bathroom, I'm sitting there kind of, it's a little bit faster now. It's almost not a drip. And so it's probably, let's see, boss gave me a call about 8:30, I think it was. Went to Cal Ranch and got back. By the time I got back, I'm thinking it was like 9. I want to say it was like 9 or 9:30, so it was still plenty of time that I could, if I could get this bleeding staunched, I could go ahead and run up and help him still with pulling that motor or that pump out. So I'm sitting there and I think I'm like, oh, hey, let me grab a couple of my wife's tampons and we'll use them because I've used them to stop other types of bleeding. And so, or at least staunch it. So I kind of get one up there, and as I do on the left side, it just all of a sudden pulls up and starts coming out the right side as quick as it did. So oh crap, well, maybe I just got to kind of hold it up in there, let it kind of try to coagulate, and so I kind of shove something up my, so I've got one of those up each, the left and right side of my nose, and I can kind of feel the pressure in the back of my throat, and trying to not let it go down, so I'm breathing through my mouth and everything, and I can kind of feel it going through my mouth, and my eyes are starting to water really bad. All your sinuses are connected, and so I'm like, dang it, and the tampons then kind of do that exploding thing out my nose, and so I'm sitting there over the sink, and I'm trying to breathe through my mouth with kind of my nose tipped forward so that I'm not having all that gunk go down my throat. And as it's doing it, I mean, it's not like it's thin blood either. It's, you can see the cottage cheese. You can see the clots trying to form. But, so I'm sitting there and I'm cleaning out the sink every once in a while when it kind of gets too full and it's not draining down the sink. I turn on the hot water and kind of break it up and let it run through into our gray water tanks. And it's not, I can get it so that it kind of slows down, but then shortly thereafter it kind of picks back up. So it's about 10:30. I'm kind of talking to my boss and saying, hey, I'll make it up there as soon as I can get my nose to stop bleeding. It's kind of been bleeding since 7 in the morning, at least that I know of. So that makes it, 7, 8, 9, 10. So about 3.5-ish hours, maybe, that it's been bleeding. And so he's like, okay, well, get yourself taken care of first, and let me know by 11 if you're coming up or not. So I'm like, okay, that sounds good. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get it slowing down. I did the tampon thing again, one up through each nostril, worked for a couple of minutes, and then there was so much blood that the pressure was causing it to come out, because I was trying not to have it come out other areas. So finally, I'm like, hey, it's 11. I text my boss and I said, hey, I'm going to see if I can get a doctor's appointment and kind of figure out what's going on. So while I'm sitting there kind of bleeding out my nose, I ask my wife if she can call, and Monica does. She gets me an appointment for 1. So I'm sitting there kind of messing with it. I finally kind of get it slowed down again about 12:30, and I've got a couple of pieces of tissue that I folded up pretty good shoved up my nose, and I'm like, okay, perfect. It slowed down. It lasted, about a half hour, 45 minutes with it like this last time. When I finally got it to kind of slow down a little. So we book it and we head to the doctor's. And, we get there probably, I want to say about 10, maybe 15 minutes early for the doctor's appointment. I walk up to the counter and I go to check myself in, and as I do, fate would have it, that's when my nose plugs come flying out. I'm kind of dripping and pouring blood all over their counter. I'm like, oh, crap. So I grab a couple of tissue papers because they got a box there, and I kind of shove my hand up my nose, and I'm kind of plugging it, and I'm trying to clean up some of it with the blood with the tissue paper that's next to me, and finally the secretaries there, or the assistants or whatever they are that were manning the front desk, basically go, hey, we've got it. We'll clean this up. You go ahead here, take this box of tissue with you to try to keep it down, and go ahead and sit down, and we'll get you back as quickly as we can. I'm like, okay, and they're like, it's a really bad bloody nose. It's not the end of the world. So we don't wait too long. I think it was, I want to say max it was about 5 minutes after one that I get called back, and I'm kind of, holding it down. And as I'm holding it, it doesn't seem to be horrible bad, but it's still coming out everywhere. So doctor takes me back, and I've kind of got, these things plugged in my nose, and I'm holding up as hard as I can. And he goes, okay, well, I got to kind of see what's going on. So let me go ahead, and we're going to pull these out and let me look up there. And I kind of go, Doc, this has been going on since 7. So now it's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. So it's been going on for about 6 hours. And when I say my nose is draining blood, I mean, it's going pretty quick. So he went and he grabs kind of this, the square tubs or buckets or whatever that doctors and hospitals kind of use. He grabs one of those, comes in, and he goes, here you go, hold this, and I'll kind of take a look. So as he did, he pulled it out, and it was no longer a drip. It was more of a flow. There was no dripping between. It was just kind of flowing out my nose at this time. So the doctor goes, oh, crap. He grabs a couple of paper, and is trying to tell me, hold my nose. And he's trying to get some of the other nurses. And the nurses kind of take, and they come in. He sends them for nose tampons or nose plugs. And so they run and grab that and the Afrin, and they kind of coat the tampon, or the nose plug, with the Afrin. And then they kind of put it at my nose, and they're kind of holding it. And as they're holding it, they can watch this nose plug just completely saturate in blood, and it's dripping out the tail on the end. I mean, it didn't even really slow it down. So the doctor's kind of trying to hold my nose, the blood vessels that are just above, to kind of try and pinch some of those off. And it's going. It's kind of gushing everywhere. They kind of end up falling out. So he goes and he grabs another pair of them, and he gets them up there, and he kind of has one of the nurses come in and is holding it for me, while he kind of steps into the other room and kind of makes some phone calls, because he says he hasn't seen one quite this bad before, and so he wanted some advice. So he kind of talked to a couple of the other doctors that were there, and decided to go ahead and call the hospital and kind of see, it's been going on now for, I think this is about 2:30, so I've been in there about an hour and a half. I think it's been 2. I've been in there about an hour, I want to say. Anyway, so I've been in there about an hour with the doctor trying to slow down this without it gagging or just pouring down my throat. So he finally decides, he's like, okay, I gotta call the hospital and tell them send the ambulance, because it's not slowing down. So he figured that they're going to have to come and take me to the hospital, which is a good, I want to say, probably 15-ish minute drive away. Not too far, 15, maybe, yeah. I'd say 15, maybe 20, depending on traffic. I don't know, I was in the back. Anyway, so as they're sitting there waiting to do it, my nose is just running everywhere. And the doctor, he comes back in and he goes, hey, I think you need an IV, because you've lost a lot of blood, and we want to kind of get the fluids back in you. And by this time, my mouth is dry, crusty, whatever. I've been trying to breathe through it. Well, I have been breathing through it and nothing else this whole time. And so I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. One of the nurses goes to my right arm. And by the way, I have donated plasma quite a few times, and they've always said that I have great veins, and are usually very, very easy to try and find it. The nurse kind of went in and kind of went around a couple of times, or the nurse assistant, I don't know. Anyway, she tried a couple of times, and she couldn't get the IV on the right side. So the other, I don't know if he was a doctor, a nurse, a physician assistant, he was on my left side. He went ahead, took it. He got the IV. He was working the IV into my left arm. And
you've got mail.
As he is working the IV into my left arm, all of a sudden, I start losing feeling in my legs and kind of in my arms, kind of in the toe, forearm, calf type areas. It's slowly coming back, and I'm like, I'm starting to lose feeling, doctor. And he kind of goes, stay with me, come on, stay awake. And I'm finding it very, very hard to keep my eyes open, and my eyesight is just slowly tunneling down into blackness. And kind of in the blackness, I can kind of see stars every once in a while, or those bright lights or whatever that sparkle. And the doctor is there trying to hold my nose so that he can try and staunch as much of the flow as possible, and also trying to hold my head up so that I can keep my airway open so that I can keep breathing. And as he's doing this, and as things are starting to go black on me, the guy over that's doing my IV on my left arm gets it in, gets it taped over, and according to my wife, as soon as he kind of has it taped over and has it in my arm, he grabs the saline bag with both hands and just squeezes it really hard. And I came to. I feel like I was gone forever, but according to Monica, my head and my eyes just barely closed and then opened right back up. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, still, with this IV in me. I'm feeling a little better. My arms and legs are still, kind of tingling, kind of there, but not really there. And I'm kind of, as this is happening, that is when the EMTs come in from the ambulance. And they come in, they bring the gurney next to me, they kind of get it all unbuckled, all unstrapped, and they look at me, and they look at the gurney and the table and everything, and they're like, do we have to lift him onto the gurney, or can he stand? And I'm like, well, I think I can stand. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to just kind of nice and easy have you kind of just stand up, turn, and sit down on the gurney. So as I kind of go to stand up, my legs kind of wibble wobble, and I'm feeling like I'm walking on sponges instead of really my legs. I never went down, but I did feel like I was going to. So as they get me all loaded on the gurney, and this shorter nurse she takes over holding shorter EMT. She takes over holding my nose and everything to try and help slow or staunch some of the bleeding. And we kind of slide out the door, and she's kind of able to go beside-ish the gurney as we go out the door. She catches up to me, and she's trying to keep that hand on there holding me. And we kind of have to maneuver around a bunch of boxes and a bunch of other things that are kind of stored in the rear walkway as we're trying to get out. And as we're doing this, I tell Monica if she doesn't ride with the ambulance, she should let my parents kind of know, because they live next door to us. Kind of let them know what's going on, and she should go ahead and come to the hospital, or have them take her to the hospital. Again, I'm not so sure how coherent I said this, but she kind of got the gist, because my mom ended up coming and taking her. Anyway, so as I'm being pulled into the ambulance, and I'm feeling okay, but at this point, my forearms and hands, calves, and feet are kind of feeling tingly and cold still. And basically, I'm just kind of sitting there in the gurney, all buckled up, and in the back of the ambulance. And because I'm stable at this point, they decide to, not use the sirens and not drive as fast, so that they can kind of work a little bit better and see what they can do. So the first thing they do on the little trip to the hospital from the doctors is they, of course, try some more of those nose tampons or nose plugs, and because the others had kind of, while we're all jolting and moving around, had come out. And so they were able to get some more in. They sprayed it kind of with Afrin, and they put them up there, and everything is just kind of flowing around them, and it's not really working to slow it down. So they end up getting this syringe with like a cone on the end of it, so that when they put it up against my nose, it seals. And she goes, okay, this is coagulant. It might burn a little, it'll taste disgusting, but it'll help your nose start to clot. So she took and she puts it up each side of my nostril, one full syringe of it, has Afrin sprayed on more of these tampon nose plugs, and shoves it up there, and is kind of holding them while we're driving. And you can kind of see them running down the mouse tails, or the little strings that stick out of them. And blood is still kind of flowing out of them. And I'm, like I said, I never, at this point, I'm still kind of tingly, still kind of cold, and they're holding this in while they're getting me to the hospital. Finally, like I said, it's about a 15, maybe 20-minute ride. Felt a lot longer, of course. We get to the hospital, and I want to say it's probably about 3:30 or 4 o'clock by the time we made it to the hospital. And shortly after they get me in, and the doctors kind of come in and seen me, and has gotten some more nose plugs, because those ones are now out, by the way. He's gotten some more nose plugs with Afrin in, and has pushed them up in there and kind of told me to hold them, and he would be back in a little bit. Kind of wanted to see what was going on. As he gets ready to leave, and by this time, like I said, I'm not bleeding bad. At least that, coming out my nose wise. I do still feel it kind of running down my throat and that a little bit. Oh, shoot, I missed some of it. While the doctor was trying to slow down the blood when I was at the doctor's office, and he was kind of pinching and holding my nose, blood was coming out of my eyes. Because, like I said, sinuses are all connected. That's where I was going to tie that all in. And that's what kind of, I guess, scared my wife more or whatever, is as they're doing this, it's kind of squirting out my eyes. And that's basically all I'm seeing is blood red. Anyway, sorry about that. Back to, I'm in the hospital. My wife and my mom showed up at the hospital. My mom drove her. And so she's kind of sitting there, and it's looking like it's slowing down. And basically, but it's still kind of going. It's not stopped. So, basically, the Lions were playing Thursday night. So I had to be home for that. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, kind of trying to hold it, kind of trying to figure it out, and it's not stopping, but I'm still staying the same, where basically my hands, forearms are tingling and cold. My feet and calves are the same thing, kind of tingling and cold. And but I'm feeling okay, just very extremely tired. I feel like I want to kind of close my eyes and lay my head back, but I fight it because I know, or at least my assumption was, that if while they were passing by and glancing in the window as they do a few times, and they saw me with my head down, they might assume I had passed out or assume something was bad. So I'm fighting to stay awake. The Lions play at 7, and I'm gonna try and stay. I'm gonna try and get there. The doctor comes in again. I want to say it had to have been around 5:30, probably 5:30 would be my closer guess. So basically, the ER doc comes in. I'm still kind of bleeding out my nose, and he goes, "Okay, so basically right here, we got two options for you. One, we can go ahead and throw a whole bunch of the Afrin and coagulant up your nose and pinch it off so that nothing comes out to the bottom of your nose, and wait a while and see if that'll take. Or we can go ahead and we can pack the entirety of your nasal cavity from your throat to the end of your nose with gauze, and then have you basically set up an appointment with an ear, nose, and throat doctor in about a week, and have them take it out, and they'll be able to kind of cauterize and clean and carefully take it out whilst they are, seeing it. But the gauze will make sure that everything's staunched and I'm not bleeding. course, because that doesn't sound very good to me, I take the, let's go ahead and try the coagulant. So basically, they take and pull the nose tampons out of my nose, and I kind of blow out the clots and things like that, and try and get my nose as clean and clear as possible. And he takes and he squeezes a bottle of Afrin up each of my nostrils, and then they had taken a couple tongue depressors and taped them together, and he shoved that right over the top of my nose, and that hurt. That pinched pretty good, but I mean, because it sealed everything off. So they've got that. I'm not feeling it as bad down the back of my throat. And that last time when I kind of tried to blow things out, I couldn't really, and I didn't try very, very hard, but I couldn't really blow out of my left nostril, which is where I was pretty sure all this blood was coming from. And post-nasular, apparently back up in the skull cavity instead of at the end of the nose where nosebleeds normally happen. But anyway, so they've got this on there, and we're kind of watching the clock, and it gets to be, about 6:15, 6:20. So I've been sitting there for a good 45-ish minutes with this thing plugging my nose. That hurt and felt like a long time. So basically, it's holding like that. No blood at this point is dripping out of my nose, and one of the nurses was able to kind of come and clean up some of the fresh stuff so that they could see if any new blood had started to form. And nothing seemed to. So at about that, I want to say it was about 6:15, that they came in and were like, okay, we can go ahead and try and take it off and see if it took, or we can leave it on and wait longer. At this point, it hurts pretty bad, so I'm like, let's take it off, see what happened. Nothing's come out, and it doesn't feel like it's going down my throat as bad, because I feel like my throat is just clogged. Anyway, they take it off, and there's a couple of drips and stuff, but not really, it's not flowing, and it mostly is stopped. They're able to kind of wipe it away, and after a couple of times, there's no more new coming down. And they're like, okay, so we're going to leave you like this for a while, and we'll come back, we'll make sure it takes. So I'm like, okay, Lions game is coming up. We got to watch the Detroit Lions beat the Packers. Anyway, so they kind of come back and forth, and it's not bleeding. And they finally come in and they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and get you your discharge papers and get you ready and get out of here. And they leave again to go get the papers. And as they leave again, I'm thinking, there is, like I said, my throat feels like it's clogged. So I'm wondering if I take a swallow and I'm going to just suck that blood clot right out of my nose and be right at the back same place. So when she comes back from getting, all the discharge papers and everything for me to sign, I kind of go, is there any way I can get a bottle of water and I'll drink on that, kind of get my throat wet, kind of get, some of this gunk out of my throat, and make sure that even with me drinking, it's going to stay. She's like, oh, yeah, that's probably a great idea. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Runs out, grabs me one of those, bottled waters you can get from Walmart or whatever. Hands me that. I open it up, and I'm kind of taking some sips, kind of taking some drinks, being kind of careful, A couple of sips in, all of a sudden, that big lump or whatever that's in my throat goes down. And as it goes down, I'm like, all I can think in my head is, blood is now going to just start squirting everywhere again, and we have to start all over. Luckily, it didn't. So we were good there. I drank about half the bottle, and over about 10, 15 minutes, nothing changed. So we were good. It's probably about 6:45, almost 7. So game is starting, and we still have to run back to the doctor's office to pick up my mom's car, who basically my mom got in my car and drove it to come get me. So we pick up her car, and the three of us head back home. And as we get home, of course, the Lions beat the Green Bay Packers. It's quite a game. I was worried there for a little bit. But anyway, and everything's kind of good. I'm exhausted. And nothing really new is coming out. So I go to bed that night, and I'm not fully laying down, but I'm not sitting up. I'm kind of, in a reclining position in my bed as I sleep. And everything seems to be okay. I wake up, and of course my mouth is totally dry. And I was told by the doctor, basically for a week, don't lean down and tie your shoes. Don't turn your head so that it's pointed down. Don't try and lift up or push or anything that you have to kind of exert any type of force on. Don't do it. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So Friday, I take it kind of easy. My whole face feels like it's been boxed in. But I'm kind of, walking around, kind of doing some things, cleaning some things, helping out where I can at our house. And Friday goes on pretty good. So I kind of let my boss and his boss know kind of what's up. Hey, sorry I couldn't come Thursday. This is what happened. I kind of am on, I can work, but I'm on kind of reduced capacity for this coming week. I'm both, okay, sure, there's a lot of things you can do. Which, there's a lot on our list that I could do and tried to do. And anyway, Saturday comes around, and I reach down to the floor to pick up. I can't even remember what I reached down to pick up. But as I did and stood up, all of a sudden, there's blood on the floor. And I go, oh, crap, and I head to the bathroom. Thinking to myself, I just undid everything that the doctor just did for me. This sucks. This is horrible. What did I just do? I'm in the bathroom, and it slowly stopped. It only lasted 10, maybe 10 minutes. Me leaning over the sink, dreading it. Felt like forever again, but it probably only lasted about 10 minutes. And slowed down to nothing again. So I was like, okay, great. I did good. Sunday I go to work, and because of the previous week putting in a lot of hours, I only had to work a short shift, which turned out really good. I made it home, took a little bit of a nap. I was like, okay, good. I feel good. Monday comes around. I head to work. And while I'm sitting there, kind of doing some computer work and getting things ready and whatnot, my nose feels like it's running. And so I'm like, oh, crap, this is not good. So I kind of grab some tissues, and I hold it up to my nose, and I've got this, oh, and by the way, I have been wetting my nose. I've been using some saline, and Tuesday morning, I was able to breathe enough through my nose that I went ahead and I used the Navage to kind of clean a lot of it out. So Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday morning. Monday. No, this was Monday. So Monday, I'm sitting there at the desk and I feel kind of something run down my mustache. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I grab some napkins, put it up, and I look down and it's really dark blood again. So my mind immediately goes, oh, crap. What am I going to do now? I'm in the middle of nowhere out at my work. And I got to run all the way up to the resort, basically, to be able to get to anyone, to then be able to get down and have anything happen. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, just stay calm, pay attention to it, make sure it doesn't get worse. And I soaked, I shouldn't say probably, I did soak one napkin. And then the second napkin, not very much at all. And the third napkin, I basically got out some dry crusties, and I was like, okay, well, I can now really good breathe through my nose. So we're just gonna kind of go with that. Maybe it was just the rest of the drainage happening. So I take and I'm watching it. I put some more of the saline up my nose to make sure that it kind of stays moist. And I'm doing this probably about every 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. And, I'm kind of worried about it, kind of making sure crap. And everything seems to be good. Okay, whew. I go home. And when I get home, I kind of take a cold shower. So I'm not supposed to take a hot one, sucks, but it is what it is. And after the cold shower, I go ahead and I use the Navage again. And kind of like in that morning, it comes out and it's very, very red. And I don't blow my nose. I let it kind of, dribble out as I move my head kind of back and forth. And it didn't work. Or I should say it did work. It kept it dry. I was still worried about it being red, but everything, took. And so Tuesday morning, I cleaned it all out. And Tuesday morning, the Navage actually didn't come out blood color. Came out with a lot of crusties and some mucus. But came out pretty good. And that's kind of where we are today. So basically, in this story, the scariest part for me was kind of when the world started going black and disappeared on me. Kind of curious, have you guys had a similar situation where a lot of trauma happened to you or your body or around you that it caused you to either black out or have a lot of worry about it or something like that, guys? Let me know. Leave them down in the comments. Let's kind of get a little discussion going. Let's see what we can come up with. If you guys have any other questions that I can kind of clarify on this story, go ahead and ask them down below too. And you all have a wonderful and blessed day.